Now that I've calmed down, I have some other points that I need to make about the entire issue with Nacelle versus Mattel, RoboForce versus Max Steel.
Hey, kid. Yeah, you. Everyone thinks toys are fun, but this is a channel for adults. Yeah, I said it. If you're under the age of 18, go get your parents before you come in here. If you're under the age of 13, scram! Let's get on with the show.
I don't want to make this video. I really don't want to have to make this video. When I initially found out about the Nacelle Corporation going against Mattel with regard to the Max Steel character and all the things that went down, there's a video I put out earlier this week, and as you can tell, I was pretty upset. And of course, I reacted in an emotional way. Now, since then, I have spoken with a paralegal who has a certification in U.S. federal trademarks and has been practicing in IP law for over 6 years. And they really helped me get my head wrapped around what the actual situation is right now, what is likely to happen, and some potential solutions that could end up working out more or less for everyone to a certain degree, depending upon who you talk to.
Before I go any further,
This video is not directed at Nacelle, Mattel, or anyone in particular, except those of you that have seen the video before and want more information. This is strictly for you, the viewer, so you know where I'm at after this information. No more, no less. Once again, not a lawyer, not giving legal advice. Okay? Okay. Ideal, the originators of the RoboForce brand, registered their trademark for Max Steel in particular in 1984. That trademark lapsed in 1991. Jim, how could you know that? I'm glad you asked. I learned from TESS, TESS, the Trademark Electronic Search System. Kind of like TESS better, don't you? And with a little bit of assistance, I was able to track down the trademark filings for both Max Steel, the RoboForce character, and Max Steel, the Mattel property. This is where things start to go downhill. Now, Nacelle purchased the copyright, according to all of my sources, in June of last year. That's copyright. Trademarks are different. Copyright is like a movie script, a piece of artwork, imagery, that sort of a thing. Whereas a trademark is something that is, well, you're making money off of a particular item or a certain good or service. Now, when you see a TM next to something in print, that means that a trademark has been filed but not yet approved. That little R symbol, reserved, that you see on a lot of products, that means they have the trademark and it is current. Without context, I always thought that the R and the TM were completely unrelated things and had different rights attached to them and everything else. That's not true. A TM means I've applied to have the trademark. The R means I've completed that process. If you look at this Savage World Hellraiser 3 figure, there's a TM next to Savage World as well as Pinhead himself, meaning that those are probably in a state of application or renewal process. That's how that goes. Possibly because, for example, Pinhead is a copyrighted character in the Hellraiser series, which itself has copyrights attached to each film. But his use in the toy as a trademarked item, they applied for the trademark to sell this toy, which was still in ongoing application at the time that it was published. I can corroborate that by showing you that the back of the toy on the card back shows trademark symbols next to all of these characters, whom we all know are copyrighted works that have copyright owners or disputed copyright owners, depending upon the product. But the trademark for the toys in question, that was something that was up for grabs, and that's why the TM exists. Now, again, I don't have all this information in my head. This is something that I had gotten from my friend who's the paralegal in trademark law. They gave me a hip pocket class, a down and dirty, and that's what I'm trying to do for you, so you understand the difference. So now that we know that difference, let's loop back around to Nacelle versus Mattel. Ideal registered in 1984 for Max Steel. Bear in mind, the brand RoboForce has no bearing on this, just the name Max Steel. Trademarked in 84, lapsed in 91 because they weren't keeping up with what is called maintenance. Just like with copyright, you have to show that you're continuing to use this product or this entity in your business. And Ideal let it lapse in 91. And a few years later, Mattel went ahead and registered a trademark for the Max Steel that they have. Fast forward to last year, when Nacelle acquired the rights from the company that owned it previously, they got the copyright and they applied for the trademark for Max Steel March of this year, almost a year after acquiring the rights to RoboForce itself. There's a possibility that Mattel was alerted to this when the application was filed, whether by the feds themselves or by doing a search, which prompted the cease and desist letter that Brian and Nacelle got. And as shitty as it was for them to say it the way they did, from what I understand, the spelling doesn't make a difference in terms of whether or not it's legally distinct. Nor does all of the nitpicks that we made in the last video about how the characters are different and the designs are different. From what I've been told and what I understand, the only thing that makes any difference is there a probable or reasonable amount of confusion that could be created by two toy lines having that name somewhere in the toy line. And that doesn't mean to discerning collectors or people that are in the know. They're talking about the general populace. So if you put a RoboForce Max Steel next to a Max Steel figure on the shelf, the question becomes, is the average citizen going to be able to tell the difference? And as much as I hate to say it, probably not. They're not going to know the difference. As a result, these could be considered competing products, and then it becomes a question of who has the trademark. And based upon my research, as much as it pains me to say it, Mattel owned the trademark for the name Max Steel. Now, just like I said in the last video, the Mattel lawyers are doing their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And it probably has nothing to do with the day-to-day communication between Nacelle and Mattel about other things that they're doing. The legal team's doing their thing. I get that. And I'm not going to try and smear them, even if I don't like the way they're doing things. But that's an emotional response versus the business law response. And legally, right now, it looks like Mattel does hold all the cards. Now, before you say anything else, I am not saying that RoboForce is going away. I don't see any reason that it should. Again, this is about the Max Steel character name. So in layman's terms, the simplest thing to do would be to change the name of the character, right? Well, that depends upon your definition of simple. In the video that Brian originally posted on the Nacelle Instagram and later on YouTube, he does state that the toys are in the state of manufacture and will be getting to California sometime later this year. If that's true, which I have no reason to doubt him, that means that the packaging will have the name Max Steel on it, which could get them in a lot of legal trouble if they go to market like that. So if no further action is taken whatsoever, if they go to market with Max Steel on the box, they are committing a form of a crime relative to the exploitation of the name that's on the trademark that Mattel owns from a legal perspective. In order to correct this, if they change the name of the Max Steel character in the RoboForce line, they would have to reprint all of the packaging that exists currently for those figures. That's not a small cost, nor a small endeavor. Now, if they were to let some just squeeze through and Mattel decided to press litigation, they could cite that as damages and seize all the profit from the sale of those characters, those figures that have Max Steel on them, in addition to damages to their brand, which would equal even more money. So the question on Nacelle's mind might very well be, where do we stand to lose more? Are we going to lose more in losing all of our profit plus legal fees, or in just simply changing the name and changing all of our marketing and changing the packaging. I don't know about you guys, but I'm over here with just change the damn name. Because RoboForce, safe. Max Steel, not so much. Now, when I say RoboForce, I get a twinge of nostalgia. I think about those toys. I think about, the cartoon and everything else that existed along with that. It's a CBS property, the whole thing. I don't think about Max Steel as a character in terms of his name. I don't care. I really don't. I want Nacelle to succeed with RoboForce, and if they were asking me what they should do, first would be to lawyer up. 2, listen to that lawyer when they tell you you're fucked. You need to do something about this. And then 3, do the thing about this, which is probably going to be to change the name of the character, pull the packaging, reprint it, pull the marketing, republish that. I realize that's not as easy as it sounds, but at the end of the day, I don't want this company to get ruined because they took a stand about this thing. Bear in mind, everything that I said about when the character was created has absolutely no bearing on trademark law whatsoever. Copyright as a piece of art, whether it was for the cartoon or a comic book, that would be a little bit different. It's a different shade of law, but doesn't have a direct correlation to the trademark aspect. And I realize that's frustrating, but that's where it is from what I understand. I'm no expert. I got about an hour of information after and research out of this. It was very helpful, and I want to thank my friend for doing that. But after all of that, it does sound like Nacelle doesn't have much to go on at this point. And that makes me really sad because I want the smaller business to win over the big business. But it doesn't matter what size the business is. If there's 2 businesses and they were having the same argument, it's going to go to the same documents, and right now Mattel's holding the cards. That doesn't mean I think it's right. That doesn't mean I think that it's the right thing for Mattel to do. Nor do I think this is the only possible outcome. It is entirely possible that Nacelle and Mattel could work out some kind of a settlement so that each party is satisfied with the outcome. And, certainly there's the possibility of doing some form of rebranding of that particular character in the RoboForce line and moving on. I don't claim to know what they're going to be doing. But I will say that on its face, based upon the research I did, I saw the documents myself, and I saw the filing dates myself. It's all publicly available on good old tests. If this were my property, if I had RoboForce, and I had this character I was trying to bring to market that currently is under the name of Max Steel, personally, I would change the name of that character and move on. Bear in mind, I still feel like this is a shitty move on Mattel's part in terms of how I feel, but the legal documentation is non-emotional, right? It's rational. Now, as much as I wish this were not true, the facts remain that it doesn't matter who created Max Steel as a character first, regardless of spelling. The question is, who owns the trademark? And right now, that's Mattel. And that's unlikely to change unless they make some sort of settlement with Nacelle. That could still happen. I don't know what they're going to do, right? I don't know. I don't claim to know. I'm just trying to clarify the air over a reaction that I made a few days ago. I don't like that this is happening. I don't feel it should be happening, but the facts are the facts. That's really what I want you to take away from this. So again, I support Nacelle's right to move forward with the RoboForce line. I just don't feel that the Max Steel character name is the hill they want to die on, especially if you look at the most recent revival having that character's name Max Zero. That probably had something to do with what we're talking about right now. Ultimately, this is a matter of how something feels versus what it is. And if roles were reversed, okay, so let's think for a second and consider that what if the previous company that had RoboForce had trademarked Max Steel properly, which, spoilers, they didn't. If they had, and Mattel went to renew a trademark on the Max Steel character they have, they would be in the same position Nacelle finds themselves in now. And it doesn't matter how big or small the company is, the trademark law is a trademark law. It's a dispassionate process that has existed for over 150 years. I'm not saying I agree with it, in concept or on principle, but principles don't seem to matter in trademark law from what I can tell. And again, I hate to say it, I don't want this to be the fact, but that's what it looks like. All of that said, I am keeping my promise with the pre-order. I did pre-order the characters on Big Bad Toy Store just to be safe. And then next week or so, I will be purchasing through Nacelle directly. Because I do want to show them support. They deserve to know that we want these figures out to market. But I don't want them to lose their shirts and their livelihood over one character name that doesn't mean anywhere near as much to me as the name Robo Force does. So that's where I'm at. I want you to continue to support Nacelle in any way that you can, and certainly show them solidarity. But let's make sure that we're showing them solidarity for what they're doing, and not because we're mad emotionally about this whole thing. The emotional response isn't going to hold up in court, and from what I've seen, the documents don't look that way either. So let's show them emotional support, let's show them financial support, and hope that they are able to work this out amongst themselves. And maybe we'll still get a Max Steel on the line, I don't know. But I doubt it. Now, I'm not looking for anyone to give me legal interpretations below, but I do want to know what you think. Do you care about the name Max Steel and RoboForce line? Be honest. If it means something to you, say so. If it doesn't, say so, because there's a good chance that I'm willing to bet that anyone interested in this line couldn't give two shits about the name Max Steel. They care about RoboForce. So let's have that discussion. In the meantime, may all your grinds be merry, may all your card backs be straight, and may you be able to find anything you're looking for at any given time at a price you feel is reasonable, unless it's your entire livelihood. Take care, guys. Cheers.
Special thanks to our patrons and members who you are seeing on the screen now. Thank you so much for your support. It really helps.